Well, hello everybody. Here we are at Enterprise 2.0 in Boston. It's actually quite lovely weather, and I'm joined by two guests here to talk about some, some of the actual interesting stuff that's going on in the Enterprise 2.0 space.
Hello, I'm Walton Smith with Booz Hamilton. We're a large consulting firm based in McLean, Virginia, and we've got a big focus on Enterprise 2.0.
And yourself?
Aaron Fulkerson, I'm the CEO of MindTouch, and we build a platform for what lots of folks call a social business platform, an Enterprise 2.0 platform. I think more about it in terms of strategic content.
I think it was this morning, if I have my dates right, that you guys had a kind of a joint press release that you guys were using. You were using MindTouch for your internal, what was it called? What do you call it exactly?
We call it hello.bot.com.
There you go. I knew it was like a very nice cutesy name.
We tried to make it welcoming. I mean, we're 23,000 employees, so we want it to be the entry point for when they're looking for the right piece of information or the right person.
Right.
So this time last year, we were honored to win the Innovative Implementation of the Year award here at the E2O conference, but we weren't happy with what we had. We know that it's a continuous process. E2O is not easy.
Right.
And so we looked at what we had and went out and said, where can we improve what we had? And we reached out to some of the partners we had, MindTouch being one of them, to come in and take a look at what we had and made recommendations on how we can continue to move the ball forward.
What are the mechanics of what people are doing with it day to day?
We're trying to break down the silos of information that happens in most organizations. We did a survey 2 years ago to see where we stood, and for the first time, over 50% of our folks were not in Booz Allen offices anymore. They were on a client site the majority of the time.
Right.
I think something like 40% of our firm has been with us for less than 2 years. So we've got a tremendous growth within our firm, but we still have lots of people who have been there for 8 to 18 years.
Right.
And so we needed a platform that could capture both the explicit and tacit knowledge and make it available for that new workforce. We're hiring 5,000 people this year,
right.
So we need to be able to get them the tools that they need to be successful. And most of our growth is outside of the DC area. So it's not like in McLean where we have 5 buildings where we can walk across the campus and go ask a question. If you're in the middle of nowhere, you need to be able to find the right information at the right time to meet your client's needs.
Right.
And so that's what we look for with our E2O platform.
I mean, it sounds like with the sort of distributed folks that you have, and then also like, to your point, it's interesting not only geographically dispersed, but experience dispersed.
Yes.
That you kind of need to rely on technology to kind of accelerate easy easy like information sharing and working together with each other.
I mean, what I say is Outlook's the de facto collaboration tool within most organizations.
Right.
It's not searchable, it's not scalable, but it's what we have.
Right.
If you've been with Booz Allen for 15 years, you have the network you need to be successful. You know who to email, you know who to pick up the phone and call. If you're new to the firm, how do you tap into that? How do you know who the point person is in the San Francisco office if you've got a question about what are we doing at X?
Yeah.
I call them the do you know emails. Does anybody know what we're doing here? And we all get them. And the great thing about our firm is people respond to them. But you respond once and someone said, what are we doing at NavAir? Well, I don't have anything to do at NavAir, so I hit delete. But my client or my boss comes to me 2 weeks later and said, what are we doing at NavAir? All we could do in the past was resend that email to all. And you might or might not get the person to respond. What we're trying to do is to capture both that structured and explicit and tacit knowledge within our platform, so you can go search, what are we doing at NavAir, and find the information you need, still to reach out and call Aaron and say, Aaron, I see that you're doing X at NavAir, do you think it would be applicable for what I'm doing here? And you're 1,000 times more likely to respond to me if I've taken the time to get at least the starting point of where the information we have.
Like you said, you had like a year, I guess, for, going back in history to kind of build where you are now.
Right.
And like how, I mean, that's, I imagine unlike other large companies, you guys are extremely nimble and you can just crank stuff out, right? No problem. But how did you manage the process of like doing things that rapidly and kind of adding stuff in?
Sure. I went to our senior leadership team and said, look, we need to get the best and the brightest on our team. So I was able to get folks that were client facing to be able to come in and have agile process to be able to push out releases every two to 3 weeks. But when we were looking at the vendors we wanted to work with, we needed some that could fit into that mindset. We didn't have time to do a 10-month study. We needed to be able to come in, do a conversion from what our previous provider was to what they had, and that's where MindTouch was able to come in and help us.
This is pretty typical. What we're seeing in MindTouch is companies are able to prototype quickly and rapidly iterate on our platform, but it's the domain experts like Booz Allen Hamilton that are able to understand what an organization's needs are, what their processes are today, and where they need to be, and given the technology that we're delivering to them, prototype and iterate rapidly. Well, that's not our expertise, obviously. So our government customers within this multiplicity of government agencies that Booz is building on top of, what they're deriving value from is, okay, perhaps a little bit the technology, but it's more their domain expertise in understanding where their culture is today, where they can squeeze out and really get some significant productivity gains by prototyping and rapidly iterating.
We were talking about your internal use of MindTouch and your platform, and in the actual revenue generating side of Booz, like are you guys selling it or using that as part of the go-to-market stuff that you guys have? Or
definitely. The Hello.Boticom's I like to say my nighttime job. My daytime job is leading up our Gov2O practice. I mean, we're focused primarily on the federal government, and we're seeing the same problems that we had. I mean, the Washington Post forecast that federal government will have to hire 500,000 people in the next 10 years. And most of the government agencies I'm sitting down with, asking them to their traditional systems of collaborating and sharing knowledge, are they ready to tackle that challenge?
Yeah.
And that's when the conversations get really good. And so we come in and provide the domain expertise, the security, the IT, all the things, the change management, all the things that need to be successful. And then we partner with companies like MindTouch and other vendors.
What's your sense for like the baseline of like where most agencies or whatever, government folks are starting at?
It's definitely improving. I mean, we're not 100% there yet, but they know that the challenges that they have are continuing to grow and their budgets are going to continue to shrink. So they got to do more with less. They know the demographics of what they're facing. So I've been pleasantly surprised in the government agencies we're working with that they really want to be cutting edge. They want to do a good job. We found that in most cases they already have about 80% of the technology they need, but it's focused on, say, PeopleSoft for their HR and SharePoint for their documents, and they have bits and pieces that are there, but nothing's tied together with the focus on the individual employees.
There's not that integration that glues it all together, right?
It's integrated from an IT perspective, but it's not integrated from an employee perspective. So they're not really empowering the employees to use the information in a useful way. I mean, when's the last time you went and checked your PeopleSoft profile? There's no value. But if we can cobble that together and have that be part of your profile dynamically, and so if I'm looking for, in Booz Allen's case, if I'm looking for a cleared person who's got this certification that lives here, all that information resides in our systems. It's just not in a way that can be can be found easily.
Well, great. Well, I appreciate you guys going over this stuff. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.